Hi friends, I'm back with chapter 6 of Socks. And just to give you an idea of where we are in the story, today we're starting chapter 6, and there are actually only 7 chapters in the book. They're pretty long chapters, which is why I've been splitting them in half. So we'll read the first part of chapter 6 today, we'll finish up chapter 6 tomorrow, and then at the beginning of next week we'll be finishing the book and we'll see how everything ends up for Socks. So I'm going to get started right now with chapter 6, which is called Old Tailor, and it sounds like we're going to be meeting another new character today. "Don't you like socks anymore?" Tiffy asked Mr. Bricker, who was trying to spade a section of the backyard while Socks rolled in the dirt at his feet. The Brickers planned to make a vegetable garden, so Charles William could have nice fresh vegetables to eat. "Sure we like 'em, Tiffy," said Mr. Bricker. "Then how come he sleeps in the garage?" persisted Tiffy. "We can't have a cat that bites in the house with a baby," Mr. Bricker explained. "He doesn't bite me. He could sleep at my house if he wanted." Tiffy looked wistfully at Socks squirming in the dirt. He would have to spend the rest of the afternoon grooming himself. A small price to pay for a good roll in the satisfied places such as dirt. He scratched and made his skin tingle. He missed the sort of brushing Mrs. Risley had given him, but the sitter never came again. The young couple could not afford her. Tiffy squatted beside Socks. "Do you want to come and live at my house?" she asked. Socks, who had finished rolling in the dirt, sat up and, after considering Tiffy a moment, allowed her to pet him. Since he had become an outdoor cat, he was grateful for attention from anyone, even Tiffy, and the two had formed a cautious friendship. "See," said Tiffy to Mr. Bricker, "Socks likes me. He wants to live at my house." She made the mistake of patting his head, and Socks moved away. Petting and patting were not the same. He was disappointed in her. "A cat's heart is where his dish is," said Mr. Bricker. Mr. Bricker was wrong. Socks's dish and water bowl had been moved to the back step, and his bed had been moved to the garage, where a window was left open so he could come and go. Still, his heart remained in the house with the family. Loneliness and curiosity drove Socks to spend more and more time sitting on the windowsill, watching all that went on inside. He watched Mr. Bricker's shadow box in front of the playpen and listened to Charles William laugh. He watched Charles William grab Brown Bear by one leg and beat him against the playpen pad, and he heard him shout, "I did." He was curious for a closer look at the plastic ball filled with water and sloshing plastic fish. He saw Charles William support himself on his hands and knees and crawl across the pen. He watched him grab the bars and pull himself unsteadily to his feet. "See the kitty?" said Mrs. Bricker many times a day as she looked up from her typewriter. "The kitty is looking at you." Charles William paused in throwing his toys outside his playpen or pounding on a pie tin to stare at Socks. Sometimes he watched Socks without his mother telling him to. Loneliness was not the only trouble in Socks's new life. Jays scattered his dry food and swooped at him whenever they came to steal it. He felt threatened on Tuesday mornings when the garbage men came, and he was afraid of the milkman. But his biggest worry was Old Tailor, the black cat with the torn ear and bulging jowls, who lived across the back fence and belonged to a family named Taylor. Although the fence was the property of the house rented by the Brickers and should have been part of Socks's territory, Old Tailor made it his own by sleeping on it whenever the sun was out. This habit annoyed Socks, who sometimes wanted to sit on the fence out of Tiffy's reach when he grew bored with her attention. However, the two cats had come to an understanding. Old Tailor would beat up Socks if Socks tried to sit on the fence while Old Tailor was using it. One morning, Socks, who had fallen asleep on the warm hood of the old station wagon, was awakened by the sound of a late spring rain driving against the garage. Louie's here for story time, friends. The car hood had grown cold and hard. After a bow, a stretch, and a brief wash, Socks sprang to his windowsill, where he saw that the neighborhood was still dark. There was no hope of breakfast, but he might find dry food left in his dish from the night before. The grass was cold and wet to his paws as he ran through the downpour in the direction of the back step. In the dim light, Socks saw a sinister black shape crouch at his dish in the dry spot below the eaves. Old Taylor. Though the sound of rainwater gurgling in the drain pipes, Socks heard the crunch of teeth crushing dry cat food. This intrusion would not do at all. Old Taylor had his side of the fence and Socks had his. Socks would not quibble about the fence itself, but his food was a different matter. He crouched, flattened his ears, and hissed, hoping to frighten the other cat, but prepared to defend his dish if he must. Old Taylor merely glanced in his direction and went on gnawing and crunching. Socks's honor as a cat could not excuse such rudeness. He advanced, still hissing, through the rain. Old Taylor stopped gnawing and grinding. He flattened his ears and hissed back from the dry spot on the step. By now, Socks was not only angry, he was soaking wet. He ignored the rain and continued to crouch, changing his hiss to a light sing-song wail and intended it to warn off Old Taylor. His tune did not frighten Old Taylor. The black cat returned the sound louder and meaner. No young upstart was going to tell him anything. The fur of the two cats rose along their spines. They wailed and they howled. And all during the eerie duet, they were moving closer to one another, with their fangs bared and their ears laid back. Nose to nose, Socks found Old Taylor a terrifying sight, with his ear torn and his fur standing out on his great black jowls. But Socks did not back down. Finally, with a terrible scream, the cats were on one another, a growling, snarling, yowling tangle. They clawed and bit and tumbled down the steps into a puddle. They rolled across the soaking grass and into freshly sprayed earth. They floundered and wailed in the mud. Old Taylor was on his back, thrashing at Socks and punishing blows of his strong hind feet. Socks felt claws and teeth through his fur. He hurt. He was bleeding, and Old Taylor had gotten him. The black cat was just too much for Socks. And here you can see a picture. And you can really see how mean Old Taylor looks, although Socks is looking a little mean too, but really upset that Old Taylor has eaten his food. So I don't know about you, friends, but I'm really starting to feel bad for Socks. He seems to just be losing more and more things. He lost his home. He lives outside now. Now someone's stealing his food. So I'm really hoping that towards the end of this chapter and into our last chapter, I really hope things start to turn around for Socks. Well, I hope you enjoyed the start of chapter 6. Keep up the awesome drawings. Sadly, Mr. Cyrus has not been able to get his printer up and working. And since Mr. Cyrus is, stuck at his home too, he's not really able to get it fixed or get anything new at this time. But I'm enjoying your pictures immensely. I wish I was able to share them on here, but things are kind of what they are right now. So keep doing a great job, friends. Keep making me proud, and you're doing really, really great. So keep it up. All right, take care.